All right, welcome in to SitStartPolls Live. That's a great way to start off the first podcast there.
Nothing like a good first little fail right there.
I'm Dave Polzin. This is my brother Eric Polzin, and we're going to break down the Hall of Fame game.
Pretty much. We might go into the other game too a little bit, the Houston game.
But we're going to start with that Hall of Fame game.
Yep.
Arizona Cardinals, Dallas Cowboys. We're going to try this. This is going to be a little bit of new experience for us with this podcast. We're going to be trying to get you guys this, try to take your questions live and try to help you guys, win some money in DFS and also, try to help you, win your fantasy leagues.
Win your fantasy leagues. That's the ultimate goal.
So tonight, Eric, Hall of Fame game. First of all, you excited to have football back?
I mean, who isn't? You've been waiting all offseason, following the NFL draft. Are you ready to watch these players play?
I mean, I always feel weird about the Hall of Fame game, especially. Unless it's your team, it's one of the weirdest games to watch because
if you can watch it.
If you can watch it, yeah, last year's game was canceled. There's just so many different players that you've maybe never seen before, even guys that, weren't college stars, just guys trying to get on a roster.
Yep.
But that's what also makes it great.
That's what makes DFS great in itself. You're going to be playing these guys that you never heard of and win some money from them as well.
So what do you think about this matchup? Arizona Cardinals, Dallas Cowboys.
So to start, you had the news breaking from Bruce Arians that he wasn't going to have any of his Arizona Cardinals starting, his starters starting. So that instantly makes you jump to someone like Blaine Gabbert at quarterback for them. He's going to start the first half. And then you got Trevor Knight. Don't know much about him, but he's going to play a whole second half. So he's going to be playing against backups. Whereas Blaine Gabbert, he's going to be playing against Dallas Cowboys first and second string. So I'm leaning a little bit towards Trevor Knight for them.
Trevor Knight, yeah. Old Oklahoma Sooner, I believe.
Yeah? I believe so.
Under big game Bob Stooge. So, Arizona, they're one of those teams, they have a lot of weapons.
They have a lot of weapons.
Even in their depth. You go down that roster, there's plenty of guys, even if they're not playing tonight, there's plenty of guys that can shine.
Yep, they know how to draft for their team, that's for sure.
So who do you think that Knight's going to be throwing to tonight for Arizona if you like them so much?
So if you're going to be playing Knight or Gabbert, you definitely want to stack him with some of the Arizona receivers. Some of them that come up to mind are Chad Williams. He was a third-round pick. You got Chris Hogan as well. Not really sure if that's how you say his name, but he's going to have pretty much a full game workload going. So those are the two that I'm targeting.
Okay. Yeah, with this Hall of Fame game, it's such a crapshoot to really know what's going on. You have nothing to base it off of. Just, camp reports, seeing who's ready to go, who's not. It's just a tough game. On Dallas's end, what are you looking at with the Cowboys? Who do you like there?
All right, so the Cowboys, they actually kind of are, they got that good line, and I believe most of them are going to be starting. So what you want to look for there is some of the running backs. You might be able to get Alfred Morris to score a touchdown. I'm not really sure. I'm not going with that too much. The person I'm going to be targeting is Rod Smith. He was a fullback last year. They converted him to a full-time running back. He's been getting a lot of hype out of training camp. And then another one you could go with is maybe Ronnie Hillman. He's kind of on his last leg trying to make the team.
Who's starting for Dallas today? Is it Kellen Moore or is it Luke McCown?
I would believe it'd be Kellen Moore. He's a little bit younger. Luke McCown is proven. So if you want to kind of go with a person that's not going to be as high owned, Kellen Moore could be your option. Another option you could go with is a guy who's going to play a lot of snaps. His name is Cooper Rush, and I believe he might be doing a lot of rushing tonight as well.
So Cooper Rush, that's one of those guys that you've maybe never seen play before.
Never heard of until 2 days ago. So
the only reason I know Cooper Rush, Maction.
And it's a cool name.
Central Michigan, some Maction. Tuesday night college football's in the fall.
Gosh, yeah.
You got your Maction. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do.
Yep.
Dallas has a lot of those veteran running backs. Hillman, like you said, McFadden, Morris, Rod Smith. There's some quality guys there. I would expect Hillman and Morris to get a lot of the carries tonight.
They're going to get some carries, and they're going to score at least one of them is going to score at least a touchdown. So if I'm going to make my lineup up favoring the Cowboys, I'm definitely going to have both of them in it rather than one or the other. That way you're going to hit on them no matter what. Little person that you could pair Cooper Rush with if you're going to be playing him, or Kellen Moore, is a guy by Noah Brown. He's been getting a lot of training camp hype as well.
Okay, let's go back to Arizona, talk a little bit about their ground game. Andre Ellington, Chris Johnson, David Johnson, TJ Logan.
Yep.
Elijah Penny.
Yeah, so Elijah Penny, the last guy you touched on, he is the guy that I'm pretty much going to have 50% of my lineups with him starting that. I'm going to be fading David Johnson. He shouldn't be playing. Chris Johnson, they're not playing. I might go a little bit of Andre Ellington, although he's had injury concerns in the past, so I don't see why he'd play too much. So that makes me go with Penny and a little bit of Williams.
I mean, for Arizona, I think you're kind of throwing a dart at the dartboard and hoping something sticks. I mean, Arian said he's not playing his normal guys, so
Yep.
I mean, you're really going to have to dig deep if you want to find some value.
Yep, but like you said, they have the deep depth chart, and they draft guys who can make big plays.
For with a game like this, what are you kind of looking at? Are you looking at when you're playing DFS? Are you looking at trying to play a lot of cash games in a game like this with the Hall of Fame game? Or are you trying to really go for the home run with GPP with only one game on the slate?
Well, with that being said, with this slate, there's 2 games. But
True.
So the Hall of Fame game, you could actually just go with the full fade since it's normally not that good of a game. Sometimes it's canceled and stuff. So you could go with the full fade on that. That wouldn't be too bad of an idea. But there's actually a lot of overlay in the tournaments. So I'm playing a lot more tournaments this time.
Okay, let's take a look at one of our polls. One of the polls, preseason DFS. Which quarterback would you start tonight? Blaine Gabbert, Trevor Knight, Deshaun Watson, other.
So my thoughts there were a lot of people are going to be attracted to Deshaun Watson because he's playing for a starting role there. You could also go with Tom Savage. It's the first preseason game. They'll probably play a quarter each. When you can get Trevor Knight and Blaine Gabbert playing 2 quarters each, that's a lot more attractive to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be interested to see what Watson can do, and I think he'll get quite a bit of playing time in that first preseason game. But rookies usually don't come out and light the world on fire in their first game.
No, I mean Dak Prescott was an exception. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that usually doesn't happen. But I mean, it's a steep learning curve. Watson's a good player. He proved it at Clemson. I mean, he was playing a non-NFL defense in the national championship game the last 2 years.
Yep.
So I mean, he might be the play. I mean, that might be the play in cash game. I think everyone's going to go that
game,
way.
You got to go with Watson. I believe that's a good call.
So I mean, we'll just kind of I'm gonna vote in the poll real quick just to kind of see what's going on. It looks like Watson is leading.
He's leading
in the vote, 46%. So almost half of the votes are going for Watson. Knight is actually the least owned player so far in the poll.
There you go. If you want a guy with low ownership, go with Trevor Knight.
The sample size is pretty small still because we just put this poll up kind of late.
Yeah.
Going forward, we'll get it up a little bit earlier to get more people in the poll. But as of right now, that's where people are leaning towards. Take a look at another poll. Running back. Which one will score the most in this slate? You got Elijah Penny, Rod Smith, Deontay Freeman, Tyler Ervin. No other in this one.
No other in this one. You definitely could go other, but I thought these were the top 4 options for me at least. I think Foreman is winning just because of name value, and he's not playing in the Hall of Fame game, which people don't like to play people in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, but I think you'll actually see a lot of people playing in. I think a lot of people will have Cardinals and Cowboys in these DFS slates.
They want to get a taste of that action, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you've been waiting since January, February to play some DFS football, I mean, I think you're going to jump on this, and I think that's where a lot of the ownership is going to be. So I think in that second game is maybe where you're going to find value.
Yeah, and my favorite strategy for this slate actually is just doing an all-out fade on this game, except for maybe the 2 quarterbacks I mentioned, Knight and Gabbert, and then just playing a couple of the defenses. You can make 8 lineups and just cycle that in there. Hopefully when the defense hits, and you can win money off of that strategy.
So this isn't one of the poll questions, but which defense do you like tonight?
See, I guess you could lean more towards the Cowboys since they will have some of their starters playing, but that's kind of hard to say. I mean, Arizona is a well-coached team. They do have a good defense. You could just play them on and hope for the best. But, I mean, I would kind of just hope for the best with that. I mean, there's no real strategy to pick in defense right now because there's a lot of backups. The starters don't play that much. So I guess with the starters playing a little bit for the Cowboys, you can lean towards them.
So, I mean, we haven't talked at all about Carolina. But Carolina has a lot of sexy players on that team.
They do, but that's the problem. They have too many players, and you don't really know who to gravitate towards. I mean, they bring in Christian McCaffrey. They still have Cameron Artis-Payne.
And those are 2 guys you left off that running back list.
They are. And you could definitely go with them. I mean, you got to think that they're going to try to get Christian McCaffrey the ball a little bit, get him formulated with the whole offensive system there. Jonathan Stewart, he's not going to touch the ball.
I heard a quote this week about Christian McCaffrey. I forget who said it, but someone said no one's going to be able to tackle him. He's so elusive. I don't know if you saw that video.
That might have been Kuechly.
With him and Luke Kuechly, but he turned Kuechly around
yeah.
in circles multiple times. He was great at Stanford. I'm really curious to see how his game translates at the NFL level.
And that's actually why playing preseason DFS is that valuable, because you're more in tune to the games and you get a lot more out of the games when you get to watch a guy like Christian McCaffrey play maybe a quarter of football in the first week. That's an advantage that you get over other people that aren't watching this or playing DFS.
I mean, what do you think about Carolina's receivers? I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, he's coming back. Is he going to play?
I mean, from the reports I've seen, he's not going to play. You could, for receivers there, you could go with someone like Moss, Frazier. He's getting a little bit of hype out of the camp. Other than that, it's just kind of throwing darts with them. I mean, you could maybe gravitate towards someone like Devin Funchess, who really needs to prove himself. I've been seeing a little bit of hype for
Garrett.
I'm gonna butcher this. Burson, Brayton Burson,
Brenton Pearson from Watford.
Yes,
FCS level.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him, making a name for himself in this preseason game, but it's just throwing a dart.
I mean, I've seen Garrett from Tulsa. He played in that high flying offense with Dane Evans back at Tulsa. I mean, I'm sure he could get in the act. 6'4", 215, kind of in that mold of Devin Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin, that big, tall, wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that he's going to get a lot of run, kind of playing those positions in the backup role.
And that's the thing with these Carolina receivers and the Houston receivers is there hasn't been that much news coming out. You don't really have that much news on their training camp yet. So that's why you could go with the full fade of tonight's game. And then once more news comes out, the beat writers come out, you can know more of who to select at these positions for the Houston-Carolina game.
Do you think going forward in the preseason that you're going to see a lot of people jump on these four teams because they're going to be watching these two games?
That's a good thought, especially with the first game with Dallas and Arizona. They're going to be watching them one more extra week. I bet they will have a little bit more ownership.
Yeah, I mean, you would think a lot of people are going to be on these teams just because they're watching them, they're seeing them. It's the exposure, like we said, first football game of the year. I think people are going to be all over, and I think maybe going forward that some of these sleeper guys on these teams could be favorites and high ownership guys going forward.
Yeah, if one of these guys scores tonight or has a really big night, it might be smart to fade them the next week because they're going to have higher ownership.
So speaking of fading, let's talk about the third poll question we've got featured on today's show. Are you fading the Hall of Fame game tonight? Yes? No, I'm playing Arizona. No, I'm playing Dallas. What are you doing?
So like I said, most of my lineups, 50% of them, I'm just fading the game completely. And then I kind of went with a stack of Dallas Cowboys.
You couldn't stay away, could you?
You can't. You got to get that taste. You do. So I had to go with the 25% of my lineups featuring Dallas Cowboy players, and then the other 25% featuring Arizona players. So
far, a lot of people are staying away. They don't want to play. About 43% of the votes are staying away from this one.
And that's just because it's historically a bad game. It's historically a game you want to stay away from.
I mean, what are we looking at? Probably under 20 for both teams?
Points? Defenses are normally better at the start of the year than offenses. So, yeah, I could go with that.
I mean, you're going to see a lot of backups. I mean, maybe this is where you go unconventional and play a defense out of this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like the Cowboys a lot. If I had to pick a favorite defense, it'd be the Cowboys just because they're playing their starters. And Blaine Gabbert has been known to throw a couple of picks.
All right, let's jump back to the second poll question about the running backs, just kind of see what the updated results are. Who did you like in that poll again?
Penny. He's my favorite.
You like Penny? Is he your favorite play tonight?
Yeah, he's my favorite play tonight.
So, and he's right up there with Foreman, 33 and 31%. Foreman with a slight edge over Penny so far.
Yeah, if I'm playing a guy tonight, it's definitely going to be Penny. Otherwise, might as well just fade it.
So, it'll be an interesting game. Like I said, I'm always about this game. It's
fun.
It is
you
fun.
get football back.
Romo's in the house tonight for the game. Just checking out Twitter. He's walking in. He's looking good. He's got no tie on. He's got the shirt unbuttoned. Got the dress coat on.
Wearing a Miami tie by chance?
He's got no tie. He's all blue, all navy. So I think he's calling the game tonight.
Oh, it's his first.
So it's his first game. Our first show, his first game. We should get Tony on the show.
I'm gonna have to call him.
We know Tony. We kind of know.
I
We
met
know.
Tony a few
We know.
times.
Yeah, you've met Tony.
I met him. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe
we'll get him on the show for you.
It's
guys.
not as crazy. We
We're
might
not
be able to get. We're
guarantee
not
it,
going to promise.
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna get him though, just for you guys.
So
Maybe just a retweet.
Maybe just a retweet. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to put you up to that task. So we'll see if he can do that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that Houston-Carolina game for a little bit? Who do you like at quarterback in that game? We really didn't talk outside of Watson about quarterback in that game.
Yeah, so you could imagine Watson's going to get a lot of playing time. You would also think that Savage is going to get a lot of playing time just because they're in a QB battle. And they're both not that old, so they should both get a lot of playing time. Other than that, on the Carolina side, I do not believe Cam Newton's going to be playing much. Joe Webb is a vet. I don't see why he'd play that much. The guy I actually like a lot, who hasn't been getting that much chatter, is Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, I mean, he should play a lot, wouldn't you think?
I think he's going to play the whole second half, and he would be the best play for the lowest ownership.
I mean, Derek Anderson's probably going to play a series or two to start out the game, I would imagine. And then you would think the rest of the half belongs to Joe Webb.
I mean,
and maybe even into the third quarter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're looking at a quarterback for Carolina, you're going between Webb and Gilbert.
Yeah, Gilbert could be the quarterback that has the most minutes out of all the quarterbacks on the slate.
And it's just interesting to see if they're really playing for that third spot or, if Ron Rivera's not even going to go with 3, if he's just going to stay with the 2.
Yeah.
But I mean, when Cam's your quarterback, when all the running he does, you got to think that they're looking at that third spot pretty heavily because one shot to Cam and Derek Anderson's your quarterback.
Yep.
And he's pretty injury prone as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you keep Joe Webb because he's most like Cam Newton? We'll see.
Let's jump back over and talk a little bit about the Houston run game. A lot of talent in that backfield. There's a lot of. I don't know how they're going to spread that around.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, that's why I was kind of surprised that Foreman was the highest owned out of that poll. I mean, he's got the name value, so that might have been why. But you got people like Tyler Ervin, who's been getting a lot of training camp buzz. You got someone like Akeem Hunt, who has proven that he's a pretty good back.
I think you're avoiding our guy because you can't say his name.
Dare Agumbawale.
Yeah, Agumbawale. I like him. I think he could be really special. I think he might make the team for Houston.
I mean, if he catches 3 passes in this preseason game, he can make a play.
I mean, he is a lot like another former Badger running back, and that was James White.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very much in the same mold, except Dare is probably a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe not as fast, but he definitely has a skill set that James White has out of the backfield as that scat back.
He's definitely worth the dart throw here.
I mean, would you play him in a flex tonight?
I would. I would play him in a flex. If I'm going to play some Houston running backs, I might go Foreman, Agumbawale, and Ervin.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Hope that 2 of them score.
There's a lot of talent in that backfield. That's going to be a tough cut when that cut comes.
Teams better be watching that.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a running back, you're watching Houston. I mean, they're Foreman, Ervin, Hunt, Miller. I mean, they're not going to cut Miller, but and Agumbawale, those are solid backs. Someone on that team is going to get cut. Yep. I forgot Alfred Blue. He's in there as well. So one of those guys,
quality.
1 or 2 of those guys are going to get cut, and there's some quality players there.
And that goes back to why you watch preseason DFS. These guys might not make a splash until 2 years from now, but if you see them or if you watch them play in the preseason this year, you know that they're a guy that can hit for you 2 years down the line.
And if they can make a wow play at any point in the NFL, like that's something that stays on tape, and coaches watch that. And if they can make the wow play now with just their raw ability, a year or 2 down the road,
when they get into a system,
they might be a guy that fits.
Yep.
And I mean, even if these guys if they get cut coming out of training camp and they don't latch on for a couple weeks, these are guys that come in week 7, 8, and 9 that become starters, and you're like, where were these guys? I don't know who they were. Well, you weren't watching the preseason.
DFS is where they were at.
So I mean, that's what you have to look at. Let's talk a little bit about the wide receiver position for the Texans. I mean, with Will Fuller going down, he's gonna be out for a while. What happens with Houston? Do they play more of their guys to get looks at them, or what kind of happens with the Texans roster?
That really does open the door for a couple of their players. You look at Braxton Miller; he was converted quarterback, so you would imagine that he still needs to get the most reps in games. And then you got Jalen Strong, who was a good preseason guy last year. He won people some money. And then you still got someone like Justin Hardy, who's kind of sucked since he's been in the league. So,
but he was great in college.
Yeah, he has a lot to prove. I mean, if he doesn't make it work this preseason, he might be out of the league next year.
What do you think of Braxton Miller? Is he going to play in preseason? Does he have to show something?
He's going to be highly owned, I can tell you
Yeah.
that much. He definitely does have something to prove. You look at someone like Terrell Pryor, he's really the only converted quarterback who's ever done anything worthwhile.
Well, that's not true. Antoine Randall was very good for a while. You
Okay.
find guys. Randall
You do.
Cobb was a converted quarterback.
Okay, yeah, but that's different. Braxton Miller played
He played wide receiver at Ohio State for a whole
a
year.
little. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
there's guys that come out of that quarterback position and play wide receiver all the time. I mean, Tanner McAvoy played quarterback, and now
He
he's an
scored a touchdown.
NFL wide receiver.
He scored a touchdown.
So I mean, yeah, he had a big week last year. So
He did better than Braxton Miller last year. So there you go.
well, we'll see. I mean,
The guy from Houston that I'm actually targeting,
yeah.
let me find him here. Shoot.
Is it one of the positions we haven't talked about yet, or what are you looking? Running back, receiver? Where are you going?
Well, he's my favorite player at tight end.
Okay.
Actually, Stephen Anderson.
Anderson,
Yeah.
second year guy out of Cal.
Yep. He's been getting the most hype out of from their beat writers.
And Bill O'Brien likes throwing to the tight end.
Yep. And that's why you got to target him.
I mean, and I don't know how much Fedorowicz or Griffin are going to play. Those are two, pretty talented tight ends. So I mean, that might be a spot where you do look at Anderson.
Yeah. I mean, if you hear news that Fedorowicz and Griffin are going to be playing and starting at least a quarter, they're worth a shot. But
Yeah, I mean, red zone target could be a touchdown.
if you don't hear anything, go with Stephen Anderson. He's the play.
On the other side for Carolina, are there any tight ends you're looking at? Ed Dixon, Greg Olson, Scott Simonson, Eric Wallace, anybody there?
No, I mean, they don't really throw it to the tight end other than to Greg Olson. He's the only guy that plays for them. So I'm staying away.
So you're looking at a lot of Houston guys. It sounds like you're in love with Houston. You're fading that Hall of Fame game, and there's some Dallas guys that you like in there as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this has been streaming live the whole time. We'll have to check it out after we're done. We're doing a 2-man broadcast here. I'm trying to run the control booth in here while we're also talking and trying to run the Twitter account. We were going to try to do a mock draft at the same time, but we kind of lost track of that.
That didn't work yet.
So maybe we'll come back to that next week, and we'll do a mock draft while we're breaking down some of the DFS slate.
Be a little bit bigger slate next week, so
Yeah, we'll probably come back next Thursday, same time. Well, probably maybe a little earlier, 5:30, 6.
a little bit earlier, have a little bit more stuff nailed down.
Yeah, we just kind of threw this together. We trying to get you something new on Sit Start Polls, and figured the podcast would be a good way to do it. So I mean, going forward, if you're watching this, send us a tweet. We'll bring it up. We can post the poll live, get you some feedback. Might even be able to take some callers at some point too as well. So
any questions you have, feel free to shoot them out, send us a message, or shoot us a tweet. Either way.
So where can they can find us? They're probably already seeing us if they're watching the podcast, but we'll tweet this out as well. But check us out at SitStartPolls on Twitter.
Yep.
Join the family if you're not there.
We have a YouTube up as well. That's going to be SitStartPolls as well. We'll post that link as well. We'll begin a Twitch going as well, so we can live stream that while we're doing this as well. We're going to try to get that going next week.
And we got Facebook Live that we can maybe set up. We got a lot of things we're going to try to do. We'll see how it works.
Let's crowdsource and see what you guys like. Shoot us a message and tell us which platform you use the most.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could hit us up and let us know what you like. We will post this video on the YouTube account too, even though it's not live, and we might look stupid afterwards because our opinions looked like crap because Cam Newton played and scored 4 touchdowns in the first quarter.
If we nail it, we're posting it.
Yeah, if we nail it,
picks suck,
I want a lot of likes.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess until next week, we'll see you later. But thanks for joining us for Sit Start Polls. We'll be back next week. Later.